The first thing I would suggest that they do is intentionally listen to themselves, to the people around them, and really discern which information is right for them and how they choose to communicate.
83% of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy.
Welcome to another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Today, we're excited to talk with Wendy about mastering operational intelligence. Before we start, let's hear from our sponsor, Limitless You. Hi, I'm Brad Chandler. My journey from flipping 4,500 homes to co-founding Limitless You began with a discovery, and that was that true barriers to success are often hidden beliefs. This insight led me to establish Limitless You. Here, we're committed to guiding business owners and executives like you through the journey of uncovering and conquering these subconscious beliefs. Our mission is to help you transform not just your business, but your entire life, achieving personal and financial abundance. Are you feeling overwhelmed by business chaos, constant overwork, or a perpetually racing mind? These aren't just stress symptoms. They signal deeper issues that once resolved can unlock your limitless potential. At Limitless You, we combine innovative neuroscience with compassionate coaching to create real change. Our clients rediscover joy and satisfaction in their lives and also witness a remarkable increase in business success. Think it's time for a change? Visit unlocklimitlessyou.com to start your journey. Okay, welcome, Wendy. How are you on this fantastic day?
Yay! I am fantabulous. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. This is amazing.
Awesome. So we got a lot of questions in a short time. Let's jump right in. Can you explain the concept of operational intelligence and how it integrates various aspects of life to just bring on overall well-being and happiness and success?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just being intelligent about how you're operating, right? It's being intelligent about what you're eating, what's right for you, how you're exercising, your mental capacity, your emotional capacity, your spiritual beliefs, and just being really in tune, aware, personal development, personal growth, all the things about how you choose to operate versus doing it out of habit, out of social constructs, but being personally responsible for how you're operating.
So someone who doesn't have operational intelligence, what are they experiencing? And what are the first 3 steps you would tell them to do to get operational intelligence so that they can change their lives in a positive way?
So they're likely experiencing relationship issues, conflicts in their lives, financial struggles, anxiety, depression, insomnia, some sort of physical manifestation of imbalance. The first thing I would suggest that they do is intentionally listen to themselves, to the people around them, and really discern which information is right for them and how they choose to communicate, especially within.
Okay. What would be the next step?
The next step is self-care, right? So making sure that you're eating the right foods for you, making sure you're getting some sort of bodily physical movement, even if it's just a walk around the lake or a light swim or a quick jog or gardening, something that fuels their spirit, that fuels their soul, that gets their limbs and their physical body moving, because movement is so crucially important. Sleep, right? Check in with your belief systems is really important, and just check to see if there's any habits that you have that you might want to change.
So how do you, if someone is, what I've experienced, and even in my previous life, I say previous life because I've had some major life changes in the last 3.5 years in a good way.
Yeah.
I like to think I was healthy and took self-care, but the limiting beliefs inside me that were causing me not feel enough, like I drink too much at night and maybe I wouldn't brush my teeth at night, or I would get high and then I'd eat like freaking 3 pints of Ben and Jerry's. Maybe not, maybe 1 pint or 2 pints, but it was a lot. Um, how do you deal with someone who comes to you who, and it's easy just to say, go walk or go take care of yourself. But
Mhm.
what do you do for these people that have these deeply long held limiting beliefs that are pulling them down?
Well, first of all, we figure out where they're at. And that's where my 70-20-10 rule comes in. If there's in 70% of operational intelligence, 20% needs some light tweaking, and 10% are the new hires and fires, that's ideally where we want you to be. So if you're outside of that, I prioritizing what you want to change. First of all, identifying what you want to change, right? If you're outside of that KPI, and then prioritizing what you want to change first. Because usually when you address the top priority, everything else kind of falls into alignment. So really identifying, one, where you're at, two, what do you want to change, and three, what's the priority that you want to change first.
What do you help? Is there an avatar or a specific type of client that comes to you more than others?
Entrepreneurs, for sure.
Entrepreneurs experiencing blank. What's the blank?
Entrepreneurs experiencing some sort of hiccup, speed bump, some sort of misalignment, either with their clients or their values or their marketing, or something is just not working right for them. They're usually going through some sort of transition or transformation. They've tried physical therapy, doctors, Western medicine, massage therapy, chiropractors, and it's just not getting them over the hurdle that they want to get.
Interesting. What's your story? Like, why are you doing this?
Oh my gosh. So my story is that I grew up in a chaotic and emotionally unintelligent household that was very judgmental, very closed-minded, and it led to a lot of chaos in my life. In communication, in two divorces, loss of a child, bankruptcy, you name it, I've pretty much been through it, except for sexual abuse. The rest of it, I've pretty much been through. And so I really want to teach people just how to own their authenticity and stop taking on other people's beliefs, issues, habits, and really operate within yourself so that you can take ownership of everything that you do, take ownership of your accomplishments, take ownership of what you want to believe in, how you want to operate, all the things that are really important so that we can stop blaming other people or say, oh no, it's their fault, or it was my dad's fault because of this and that. It's not. It's your choice to choose how to live.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add on to that once you become aware, because for 47 years of my life, I wanted to live better, but I didn't understand the implications that my childhood had on my relationships and finances and health. So, but if you've listened to this podcast, you're going to become aware, right? So
Yes.
you can you don't have to do anything, right? But I would
No,
say now
no.
that you have an awareness, you should do something, because it's going to prolong your life and improve the relationships in your life, and those are really the most important things, I think. At the end of the day, is what were your relationships like with the people who you cared most about? So
Well, and in my opinion, once you become aware, once you see something, you can't unsee it.
yeah,
So once you become aware, it's hard to, you can't become unaware. So then it's just going to constantly eat at you over time if you don't do something about it, which is just going to further impact the complications that you're experiencing.
so it sounds like your childhood had a major impact on your adult life.
Complete. Absolutely. 1,000%. Like I have blocked out my childhood prior to 8 because of the trauma from my parents' divorce. It made
Wow.
that big of an impact on me.
Right. So you blocked it out, which means you
Mhm.
can't recall it, but your body remembers it, right? And it influences your behavior as an adult.
Absolutely.
I had a client who was like, I don't remember anything before the age of 5, but I'm really, really angry and angry way too much. And we did hypnosis. And at 2 years old, he had a really traumatic event involving his mom that no wonder he felt the way that he did. But this was 40 something years
Yeah.
later, and he had no idea. What do you say to the person? You've heard this before,
Yeah, I've been through it actually.
get over it. Just get over your childhood. What do you say to that?
That's not that's not how it works.
Why? Why doesn't it work that way?
Because it makes an imprint into your energy system. It makes an imprint into your brain and how it operates. It creates neuralistic passageways in your brain on that tells it how it works. So you literally have to address the issue, either identify it. And I went through that exact thing. Actually, I went on a retreat. I took myself on a retreat out into the mountains, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm laying on the bed kind of meditating. And I always knew like there was this Pandora's box somewhere in the back of my head, but I was always too afraid to open it because I didn't know what was in there, right? And all of a sudden, through guidance, like, okay, we're going to open this box now. And I was like, no, I'm not ready for this. And they're like, sorry, this is what's happening. And so it came up, and it was a memory of when I was 2 years old, and I could see it very clearly. My mom was facing me. I'm in the high chair. She's feeding me. My dad is in the background. It's 1980s. I could see their clothes and everything. And I'm thinking in my head, stop fighting. Just stop fighting. And that moment, those 30 seconds, made such a big impact on me because I would never stand up for myself, either in school or in relationships. I'd never want to fight. I'd never want to address conflict. And that leads to being a doormat and all kinds of other issues.
Really interesting. Yeah. If more people could just, I can't tell you how many coaching clients I've had where I asked them what was their childhood like, and they're like, well, it was fine. And I'm in my head, I'm saying, no, it wasn't, because you wouldn't be here with this issue if it was. And 5 minutes into it, well, yeah, my mom was threatening to commit suicide, or my dad was, never around, or my dad hit my mom. I'm like, yeah, that's no good. That's no good. That's no good. And that's why you're here, and we'll heal it all.
Yeah.
I just wish more people could understand. It's not, just like you said, it's not about blaming your parents, because look, your parents, if they fought all the time, they didn't have a lot of self-love. They didn't have a lot of emotional intelligence. They were just trying to survive, doing the best they could.
Exactly. They're humans just like the rest of us. We're not perfect with our nieces or our kids or our lovers or anybody else. Neither were they. They're learning lessons based off their spiritual path, just like we are. So to really see them as human beings and not just your parents and putting them up on a pedestal, but becoming aware of that. And what I've noticed with a lot of people I interact with is usually when they say my childhood was fine, they justify stuff.
Yeah.
They're justifying it. Oh, what was fine? That's just who they are, or that was just the circumstance, or whatever. Your emotions are valid. Your experiences are valid based off you and what you need to learn. So let's find the lesson so that we can find the gratitude and find the forgiveness and help you to move forward.
Yeah, they likely justify it because it's their normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Our subconscious brain, the job of it, or mind, is to keep us alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you went through something terrible as a kid, the brain doesn't say, oh, it's terrible, we're going to keep you away from it. The brain says just the opposite. Oh, it may have been terrible, but I don't really care. You're still alive. And my only job is to keep you alive. So we're going to recreate that. So I bet, were your intimate relationships, were they a recreation of your childhood in a lot of ways?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Both of my ex-husbands were addicts of some kind, alcoholics, emotionally unintelligent, all the things that represented my family.
How old were you when you first got married?
I was 21.
Did you more closely marry your mom or your dad? Who are the husbands most like?
That is a great question. Um,
Let me ask it a different way. If
yeah.
someone would have said, Wendy, at 21 years old, I want you, here's $1 million if you go marry someone just like your parents, what would you have said?
Some expletives and told them to screw off.
Yeah, so you probably say, number one, I have no idea how I'm going to find them. And number two, I don't want to marry them, right? But look what
Right.
you did. Look what
Yep.
I did. Look what millions, bazillions of people do, right? We go
Yep.
marry the parent who we had the most issues with because, again, number one, I've heard this, that we're trying to make it right the second time. But number two, it's familiar to us. If you grew up
Yeah.
being yelled at, if you grew up being hit, you're likely going to go match with someone who is going to hit you or going to yell at you because
Yep.
that's what's familiar.
If you grew up being poor, you may not feel like you deserve money. Right?
Yeah.
Our childhood upbringing and the community that raises us is what leaves that imprint. And that's why operational intelligence is so important, to be able to set those aside, overcome them, and choose how you want to live instead of falling into the patterns of how you were brought up.
Yeah, love it. So lots of people struggle with self-doubt and insecurity. How do you help people who struggle with this so that they can tap into their true potential?
I love this question because I'm working with a client right now on her self-worth, and she's in her mid-60s. And her self-worth up until this point, she's been using her mother's definition. And so she's never felt fulfilled because she's using somebody else's definition for self-worth. So now we're working through that. I had her come up with 3 adjectives on how she describes what that means to her. And then we did a 10-point scale. Where are you at right now? Where do you want to be? And then I gave her some tips, and then we prioritized the ones that she wanted to work on. And I gave her some tips on what to do for the highest priority. And just in one session, because we meet every 2 weeks, she surpassed where she wanted her goal for her first priority. And then the second one's automatically elevated because they're all in relationship with each other. So she almost reached her goal in just one session.
That's awesome. That's great. Spiritual therapy. I believe you mentioned, or we talked earlier about spiritual therapy. How does that complement traditional approaches to mental health and helping, men and women achieve personal growth?
Because it not only does it include your mindset and your emotions, but it includes your principles, your ethics, your values, your beliefs. And those are the 5 spiritual pillars that honestly dictate your mindset and your emotions and how you operate. And it dictates your habits and everything else.
So when you work with clients, do you go through that whole gamut of core values and principles and all that, what you just mentioned?
Absolutely. Based off their beliefs. I don't care what you believe in. I've worked with Jewish, Catholic, super woo-woo, spiritist people. I work across the whole gamut. I don't care what you believe in. I just want to help you foster that and help create a life based off of what you believe.
Interesting. What's the biggest lesson you've ever learned in your life and why?
The biggest lesson I've ever learned. Intentionally listening would have to be the biggest lesson, because it teaches me how I'm treating myself, which is often reflects how I treat others. It helps me to vet my clients. It helps me to vet my business associates. It helps me to vet the people that I date. It does everything because I'm listening. I know what I want. I have my clarity. And so as I'm listening to them, I can either check off the boxes or not. And then I know either who to date or who to work with or not.
Does that include listening to yourself?
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Tell us
You
about
have to know what you're saying to yourself. And you have to know, because what you're saying to yourself is how you get clarity in your business message, in your pitch deck, in, in your life, in what you want out of relationships. Because there'll be a lot of times where I'm on a podcast and I'll say something, I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that about myself, but I was intentionally listening to what I was saying. And it's like, okay, so I write that down or I make a mental note of it. And it has helped me progress in this business that I'm building. It has helped me progress with choosing the right people to partner with. And I'm in my first relationship in 9 years, and it's amazing because I intentionally listen.
So you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs that have major chaos in their business and cash flow issues, what's the primary source of those things?
Their leadership skills.
And what's the source of the poor leadership skills?
Not being aware of themselves, not being aware of the habits that they have versus the habits that they choose to have.
And what leads most people to be completely unaware?
We get so wrapped up in the mundane tasks of, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this. And these are all the things I got to do. And I got to go get my clients and I need to bring in revenue so I can pay my team and all the things. I got to make dinner. I got to help the kids with the homework. We get so ingrained into the daily task list that we're missing all of the big picture.
Yeah. So I agree. And I'm going to add what we've been talking about. I think the unawareness comes from a lack of authenticity because you in your childhood couldn't be authentic because more pain would come to you.
Absolutely. I had a bunch of spiritual gifts when I was a kid, but because I was raised in an Orthodox Christian home, they were frowned upon. So I kept getting in trouble, and so I shut them off. Well, if you shut any part of you off, whether it's your spiritual gifts, your sexual orientation, the fact that you're a nerdy and love computers, whatever that looks like, if you shut any part of you off, you cannot operate in your authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you just heard that, let's wrap all that up with a bow. If you have cash flow issues, if your business is constantly up and down like mine was for 20 years, if you have people coming and going all the time, you're hiring, you're firing, people are quitting, you don't need another mastermind. You don't need another marketing campaign. You probably don't need a business consultant. What you need is to talk to someone like Wendy or myself that will help you figure out the problem right here between these two ears. That's causing everything. It's not your fault. Just like you said, it wasn't your parents' fault. It's just your brain trying to survive. And when you can do that healing, I'm sure you've worked with many entrepreneurs that they came to you for one thing and then you solved that and then their business took off.
Yep. Not only did their business take off, their marriage got better, their relationship with their child, the bond with their child got better, right? It's the whole thing. But you increase your employee retention, you increase your client retention. If you have too much turnover, whether it's clients or employees, you're wasting too much time, energy, and resources in going through the hiring process, marketing for those people, all the things. So let's narrow it down. Let's get some clarity. Let's break some habits. Let's do some healing and get your business in alignment with where you want to be and where you need to be.
Talk a little bit about nutritional intelligence and its impact on mental and emotional health, and for that matter, business success or lack thereof.
Right. So by eating the right nutrients for you and for your body, right? Vitamins, all these things feed our brain, which increases its capacity and proficiency, right? It increases your digestive health, right? If your digestion is off, you don't feel good. When you don't feel good, you don't make good decisions or you don't make the best decisions, right? So while kale is a healthy ingredient, it's not healthy for everybody. It's not healthy for people that are on blood thinners or have really low blood pressure, right? So eating the right things for you, like I can't eat any beans except for refried beans. I will naturally regurgitate them because my iron level is too high, which is very odd for a female. Usually our iron levels are low because of our menstrual cycles, right? So you have to eat the right foods for you. And by in order to do that, you have to be aware and you have to listen to your body. If your body is craving carrots, eat some carrots. There's probably something in those carrots that you really need, that your body is deficient on. If your body is craving fish or tuna, you're probably low in omega oils, right? Listen to your body and eat the right foods for yourself.
What if your body is craving pecans, or not pecans, pralines and cream, some Baskin Robbins on a waffle cone?
Right.
Like,
That's when you need to have a conversation with yourself, saying, is this my taste buds having the craving, or is this my body having the craving and we're low in sugar and therefore we want sugar? But have that conversation with your body and be like, okay, are we craving this out of habit? Is this just my taste buds because our taste buds get trained? Or is this an emotional eating habit? I have an emotional eating habit. After dinner, I have to have dessert. I have to have that sweet after the savory. Or when I go through something emotional, I have to have something sweet. And so I recognize that it's an emotional eating habit, but putting it in check and keeping it to a minimum, giving yourself that 10% of grace, but keeping the 70% in alignment.
so how do you take your clients through the nutritional assessment, for lack of a better word, to figure out those things?
So I love this question because right now I'm learning spiritual herbalism,
Wow.
which teaches herbs, plants, all the things based off different ideologies: Greek, Ayurvedic, Kabbalic, which is Jewish, pathologies, Western medicine, and how it affects your constitution, right? So if your constitution is dry, I wouldn't give you foods or suggest foods that would continue to make your body dry, right? So we would really have that conversation and allow the intuition to come in and really see what resonates with them based off their body.
Is that like muscle testing type stuff?
It can include muscle testing. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. They're really interesting. I've never even heard that before. Herbal.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Say that again.
Spiritual herbalism.
Spiritual herbalism. What a great phrase right there. So
Yes.
you touched on this before, and I know you've worked with a lot of clients. Give us another success story that kind of rises to the top when you think about the success you've had.
So the biggest client success story that I had is with a lady in Phoenix. She called me crying one day. She just moved from New York to Phoenix, and she had tried psychotherapy and all of these things. And she told me that I was her last ditch effort before she checked out.
Whoa.
And in just 5 sessions,
No pressure there.
no pressure at all.
Whoa.
But in just 5 sessions, she had a whole new outlook on life. She was gardening. She had this vision of buying a camper van and driving around the United States, building gardens everywhere and working remotely. And she was just so high on life. And that to me is just worth everything that I do.
What an amazing story. And it's a great story to kind of shed light to all the listeners that, look, this lady was near about to take her life. And in 5 sessions, everything changed. No matter how bad you're suffering right now, you're actually a lot closer than you probably think you are. You are close. All you need is the right people. If you've tried everything in the past, I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that were like, I did everything and I went to Tony Robbins and I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. I just couldn't do it until I went through hypnosis and got into my subconscious mind. So
if I may, just 1 second. And that's what I love about what you and I do, because we don't just give these people a protocol and blah, blah, blah. We go to the source.
Yeah.
Whether it's hypnosis or whether it's through meditation, and I guide you to your heart to ask your heart why it's wounded and what it needs to heal the wound. We actually take you to the source to identify what it needs. Nobody else can tell you, even yourself, even your own brain can tell you what you need until you go to the source.
Yeah. So if you're struggling or suffering, you weren't meant to be that way. I promise you, life was not meant to be a struggle. It's supposed to be abundant and deeply connected, right?
Yep.
So reach out to one of us. There is help. There are better ways than Western medicine with the diagnose, label, and give you a drug. We don't do that. And we go to the root. And if it's a mental pain or physical pain, the only real reason the way that you solve these long term is to get to the root. So if you're sitting here thinking, do I have stuff from my childhood that's affecting my marriage, my business, my health, the way my kids are acting, their anxiety, their behavioral issues at school? You can find out in 3 minutes by going to unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz and taking our self-love quiz. It will show you in a couple minutes just exactly where you stand. And it may start you on a journey that changes your life in a way that you can't even imagine right now. Wendy, that was amazing. Anything you want to say in conclusion? Tell people how they can find out and reach you if they want to do some work or just find out more about you.
Yeah. So if you want more information on my 70-20-10 rule, just grab a copy of my book. It's called Verbal Turbulence, the 70-20-10 rule. It's available on Amazon, both in paperback and Kindle. But reach out to me. Go to tbrspiritualhealth.com. You can text me or call me at 844-735-6090. And let's just have a conversation about where you're at, what you've been doing, what's been working for you, what's not. And let's see if we even jive, and let's see how I can help you.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. Keep doing it. Keep shining your light bright.
Likewise. Thank you so much for being who you are and having this platform and doing the work that you do for our fellow humans.
Thank you. So that concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. You have got to know someone who's struggling or suffering, and you've got to know the truth is that they're only hours away from everything changing in their lives. So do them a favor. Share this episode with them. Get the URL. Text it to them, rate it, review it, anything you can do to get this word out. I'm on a mission to help 1 million people get rid of these limiting beliefs that are causing them the suffering. And I can't do that alone. I need your help. So please do that small favor for me. And until next time, love heals all.
Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.